Okay, so this video is going to take us through the Antacid Lab Calculations portion. So I'm making this in case I'm not there on the day that we do this. I sometimes am gone for swimming and whatnot. So here we are, this data table we should already have completed by gathering that data. We ground up some Tums or Alka-Seltzer or Rolaids. Different groups did different medicines. You figured out how much base you needed to neutralize the stomach after that tablet ground up medicine was in the stomach, neutralizing some of that acid. So this is a class average, and we're going to be using that data. Now, this is what the next table looks like, and we have to do calculations, and you do need to show your work. It is really simple to type a subtraction problem or a division problem into a computer. So type it, and then there's 3 different columns for your answers so that we don't get them all mixed up. So 1 answer for Tums, 1 answer for Alka-Seltzer, 1 answer for Rolaids, but you'll show all 3 calculations in this column. Now I'm going to show I'm going to stop this share, and I'm going to show you guys some examples using a whiteboard. Okay. So here you see I've sort of copied that data table too, where we have our class data. So you should already have numbers filled in here. I don't have any numbers there because I'm making this video before we even did the lab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a final example down here, and I'm going to go through all the calculations for this example so that you have a model to use for your Tums, your Rolaids, and your Alka-Seltzer. Okay, so my other example, I don't bet you didn't know this, but you can take baking soda as an antacid, okay? And the directions for that is you just dissolve 1 teaspoon of baking soda into some water, and then you drink it. And I'm sure it doesn't taste great, but it has a very similar reaction to like Tums in your stomach acid, okay? Okay, the cost of a teaspoon of baking soda, it varies, depends on what brand you buy, but we'll just say it's 7 cents based off of what I looked up on the internet just now. And the mass of a teaspoon of baking soda is 11 grams. You don't need to write any of this. I'm just using this as an example, okay? Now let's say when you take a teaspoon of baking soda and you put it into a stomach and then you titrate it. Let's just say I did that, okay? Afterwards, I titrated it with NaOH, and I need to hit neutral. And the amount of NaOH that I needed to hit neutral was 17 milliliters. We'll just say that was my average, okay? This number is going to be important on the next piece, on those calculations, okay? So I'm going to go through using baking soda. I'm going to need all of this data to fill in that next table, and I'm going to show you how to do those calculations. So I'm going to let's see if I can stand this up so we can still see it, maybe. Okay, hopefully we can still see that. Here are the PostLab calculations that we need to do for each antacid, okay? So first, acid neutralized per serving. Well, we were using a whole serving every time you did a titration yesterday. And this last column, this class average column in your data table, is showing you how much base you used. So we want to know how much acid was neutralized. Well, if you look at the data table in the worksheet, it tells you how to do this. The way that we're going to do it is we take 50 milliliters. This is how much acid we started with in the stomach, in your glass stomach. And you're going to subtract the amount of acid that was still left, which is indicated by the base that you needed to finish the neutralization. So if I needed 17 milliliters to finish my neutralization, that means there was still 17 milliliters of acid left in my stomach. So not all 50 was neutralized, only how much was neutralized, right? 50 minus 17, we get 33 milliliters of acid was neutralized. Okay, so when I put the baking soda in, 33 milliliters of the acid was neutralized. 17 milliliters was not, so we needed 17 milliliters of base to finish it, and that's why this equation works. So you're just going to take 50 minus whatever average you have in this column, and that'll tell you how much acid was neutralized per serving. Okay, next one. Acid neutralized per penny. Well, now we're going to be using this number as our starting point, okay? In my stomach, with the baking soda neutralized 33 milliliters of acid. So that's what I'm going to start with. So this number will be different for each calculation. Up here, we are always going to start with 50. But in row 2 of that data table, you're going to start with whatever your answer was up here. So 33 milliliters of acid was neutralized by the baking soda. And I want to know acid neutralized per penny. So I need to divide this by the cost of my serving. Well, if we look back up here, we have a cost column, 9, 11, 4, okay? For my baking soda, the cost per serving was 7 cents. So I'm going to divide by 7. That'll be how much acid I neutralize with every penny of medicine purchased. So 33 divided by 7, and I get 4.7 milliliters. So 4.7 milliliters for every penny that I spent, I can neutralize 4.7 milliliters of my stomach acid. And then this final one, acid neutralized per gram, is going to be really similar, okay? I'm going to start again with this number. This is my starting point for rows 2 and 3. 33 milliliters of acid was neutralized by the baking soda. Remember, that number is not going to be what you're using for Tums or Rolaids or Alka-Seltzer necessarily, okay? It's whatever 50 minus whatever base you used gives you an answer, and that answer is used here and here. It probably won't be 33, okay? But 33 milliliters was neutralized by my baking soda. I want to know how much is neutralized for every gram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by the mass of the baking soda used. Looking back at this table, I have the mass of each serving written right here. My baking soda weighed 11 grams for that teaspoon of baking soda. So I divide this by 11 grams, okay? And I'm going to get 3 milliliters is neutralized for every 1 gram of baking soda consumed. 3 milliliters of acid gets neutralized. Okay, so that's how this works. Follow that same example. 50 is going to be your starting point for everything in that first row, and then you'll subtract the NaOH that you needed as a class, the class average NaOH, okay? Subtract that class average NaOH to get your 3 answers. Okay, then you'll take your answers, divide them by, not by 7, but by either 9 or 11 or 4 to get the acid neutralized per penny. And then you'll take your acid neutralized again from your first row and divide by the masses, not by 11, but by 5.24, 6.48, or 3.47, depending on whether you're working on Tums, Alka-Seltzer, or Rolaids. Record all of those answers, and then you should be able to analyze those questions. Let's go back to look at those questions really quickly, because I might be able to help you out with some of those as well. Okay, so down here, which one was the best antacid? Usually, we define this in our pre-lab. If you are taking an antacid, your goal is to neutralize acid, right? So whichever one neutralizes the most is probably what you want to look at. So going back up here, again, how much acid was neutralized by a serving? Whichever one of these is the biggest number, knocked out the most acid in the stomach. So that's what you're going to say, or you're going to use for questions 1 and 2. Which one is the most cost effective? Cost effective right there. That means price, right? So that one, we're going to be looking at this line. Per penny, how much acid did we knock out? Okay, whichever one gives me the most bang for my buck. Okay, which antacid requires the least amount of medication to cause relief of heartburn? So some people are concerned about taking too many meds, right? So this one is per gram of medicine. Which one did the best? Okay. And then other considerations and which one you would use if you needed one. And then also looking back at your pre-lab and seeing if your prediction was correct. So that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of this lab. Then you'll submit it and you'll have another activity with one more antacid done as a demonstration and do a little analysis. So thanks for tuning in. Good luck. Email me if you have questions, and I'll talk to you later.